This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, saving your day from boredom with the best podcasting entertainment.
What's up? Real MVPs, Ricky Widmer here, and welcome in. We're back. I am joined, before I get into everything and go long-winded here, I am joined with my co-host. It's nice to say your name again. Soapy Muffins, how you doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm happy to be back.
I will ask you, do you know, because I don't know, usually I have these like worked up to where like Ricky has like the MVP lore and the history. Do you remember the last time you and I did a show together? Like this, 1v1, both of us? Was it White Men Can't Dumb?
It was White Men Can't Dumb. I don't remember what the last thing we talked about was, though.
Was it the future? Like, I'm thinking, was it the Futurama when they were talking about not Bender? What's Bender's voice actor's name? Joe DiMaggio saying that he would not come back unless they were paid.
He wanted everyone to be paid more. I don't think that was the last one.
Because I know we talked about that. I know we talked about, was it the Lord of the Rings series?
I think so. I honestly don't know.
I'm looking it up. I'm getting to our channel. So the last show that you and I did together, Christopher Lloyd joined cast of Mandalorian.
Oh.
That was the name of the last video.
Man,
I don't even remember him in The Mandalorian because I'll be honest, I don't think I watched season 2.
Well, I think he was joining for season 3, I think.
I didn't watch season 3 at all either.
I mean, I'll be honest, you're not missing much with season 3.
Well, so here's the thing, I was gonna watch season 2, but then I heard about the Boba Fett stuff, and then I heard about the Book of Boba Fett, and then I'm like, you know what? I don't need to watch it, but Soapy, I digress. People aren't here. Usually we're talking entertainment, video games, TV. We're diving in. We're starting a new adventure. People, you are here right now. If you've made it this far, because you're probably like, who are these two idiots? I know you're thinking idiot on this side, but Soapy, this is an MVP wrestling podcast. I think we settled on the name Heel Talk for the show.
I think so. Beats me. That conversation
cool.
Feels like it was forever ago.
It sounds like, I remember going and listing off names. I'm like, Heel Talk. And you're like, I like the way that sounds. And I'm thinking, yeah, but neither of us are really like bad guys. But then I'm sitting there, I'm like, you know what? I like the name Heel Talk. It just sounds cool. Then you got Heels, the TV show. So welcome to Heel Talk, where Soapy and I are going to be talking about numerous wrestling topics, sometimes one topic, sometimes many. We're going to go bi-weekly with this. So one episode every 2 weeks from this point. As you guys, let me think. If I'm getting this right, this episode should come out on either a Sunday or a Monday. Probably Sunday. I don't know. Yeah, every 2 weeks. So from whenever this comes out, as we're recording this on Wednesday, August 30th, we're going to be talking about wrestling. And Soapy, for people who want to learn a little bit, we're going to start off this episode something clear and simple. Who's your favorite wrestler of all time? Here's a loaded question.
That's kind of a tough one because it's one of those weird things.
Is it?
Because the fact of I look at it this way, of where, to me, I've had so many favorites throughout my life. Because it entirely depends on where I'm at in my life. Like, for instance, when I was a little kid, and I'm talking little, like 6, 7, John Cena, my whole fucking world. I'm doing like the fucking, you can't see me. I'm running around doing that.
I'll put it this way.
Like,
who is your guy? If someone said, you only get to pick one wrestler to be your guy, to be like, you know how they do like out of these 4, one has to go? No. You can only pick one. For me, it's Stone Cold. It's easy. Stone Cold's my favorite. Will always be my favorite. There you go.
Well, the funny thing is when I started narrowing it down, because I'm like, okay, I'll try to narrow it down to 4, and I'm like, all right, fuck, I basically just picked 4 TNA guys. You know what? Go AJ Styles. I think I would say he's my favorite of all time.
All right. Is there a reason behind that?
Mostly just because, during my, I don't want to say informative years, because that makes me sound like I'm actually smart.
Informative years.
When I was growing up. But I was a really big TNA fan in like the 2000s, and I vividly will always remember AJ Styles just in TNA. Mind you, he had some of the stupidest I've ever seen happen in wrestling, the AJ. It was like, to think about the fact of where, like, at that time, imagine, when TNA is at its peak, so, like, mid-2000s, that's also, like, the potential peak of, like, Randy, John Cena, and all these other guys. I was, like, I like them because it was like, oh, it's WWE, I like that. When I'm watching TNA, where I'm like, this guy's just on a different level. Now, mind you, I'm not, different conversation for if he's better than both of them all time. But
no, this is just your favorite.
Always was.
For those of you out there, Soapy did not know this question was coming. This is me off the cusp, like, hey, let's give the people something behind us. And I just threw it right into your lap. I was like, here you go.
I was going to be like, do I want to go with the shithead angle of being like, oh, Perk Angle is my favorite?
Oh, but everyone loves Perk Angle, dude.
Perk Angle is a different breed. If it wasn't for the Perks almost killing him at one point, Perk Angle really would be the greatest of all time.
Oh, or now because you're more of a TNA guy than I was. Black Snow was an announcer character.
Yeah.
He wasn't like the actual wrestler for Booker T.
Oh, it was a one-off thing that they did of where it was Kevin Nash and Booker T were doing commentary for the show, and it was Chet Lemon and Black Snow. It was the way that Booker T would always say Black Snow is the part that's when he'd like Black Snow.
Black Snow.
It always had like an N somewhere in snow, and it's so funny.
Hearing you talk about TNA makes me wish I watched it in the era of TNA. Not going back, but actually watching it when it was like in its peak.
Yeah, no, dude. TNA was the absolute peak of like ad wrestling in the sense of like there were great matches. Reality, the overall product wasn't super great. Now, mind you, I'm gonna have TNA diehards now be like, actually, it was good. Listen, brother, I watched it. All right,
listen, brother.
As a kid, I also thought it was kind of stinky, but like
it was on Spike, wasn't it?
Yeah,
okay.
It was on Spike for a while, and then I forget when they got off of Spike. One of the 5,000 times they're like, TNA's bankrupt. I'm like, well, here we fucking go.
Well, was it near the same time when Spike stopped doing the Man Awards and the Man Show and Mansers and?
No, I think it was a little after. I think it was the first like major like Impact Wrestling, because they were Impact by that point. It was like Impact's broke, like we don't have money.
Yeah,
I think it was that. Was the first? I think that's when they lost it because they couldn't pay for a TV deal anymore.
Yeah, but
Spike's like, that.
But welcome into Heel Talk. This is where we're going to be talking about wrestling topics. Before I get into everything, make sure to, if you want to keep up to all the episodes, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell down below. MVP.com, or I shouldn't say MVP.com, mostvaluablepodcasts.com. Down below is going to have the schedule so you can see exactly when things go up on Patreon, exactly when the versions go up on YouTube. And obviously, Discord down below. We have a wrestling channel. We talk about wrestling in there. Soapy I will say you lead the conversation for the wrestling chat, but we got a little small wrestling contingency that I do like the conversations that happen in there. So if you want to join the greatest community in the universe, that down below on our Patreon page. Get these early. You can support us there as well. Soapy, for the first episode, we got a jam-packed show, a loaded show, because we're talking three big topics. The first one is we're going to be talking what happened at All In. Then we're going to be taking over, kind of speculating on Edge and where we see his career ending after the SmackDown match with Sheamus. What would we like to see? And then we're going to end with the big meat and potato, and Ricky's going to tell you guys why Roman Reigns is horrible and his title reign is the worst thing to ever happen to wrestling. That's what we're talking about today. The first thing, though, CM Punk and Jack Peery. So, because we were talking before the show, you said something, and it was something that I seen a tweet of today that I think is prevalent. So for those of you who are living under a rock, don't know what happened, All In happened on Saturday. It was AEW's, we're going to say, biggest show, because it was the biggest show in all of wrestling. It's got, more people were at that show than any other wrestling show, period, with their 80,000 people?
Yeah, aside from the one that happened in Korea, which we don't count, because that was you're going to the show.
Yes, you are
don't have a choice if you want to go to the show. You are going to the show.
I mean,
aside from that one, because I think it was 81,000 people were there. Yep. It's like 81,065, I think is what the number was. I mean, crazy to think. And then you get to see people on Twitter, and they're like, "Oh, well, there's no way there were that many people. Look at all the empty seats." Like, you guys know how many people Wembley can seat, right?
A lot of people.
Like, there's thousands of empty seats. Like, brother, there's 9,000 more seats they'd have to fill.
So before the show, though, kind of before the show, before the CM Punk Samoa Joe match, I'm looking at Wrestling Ops here. They say, with regards to the CM Punk Jack Perry incident backstage at AEW All In, there were a lot of witnesses, including Tony Khan. Punk walks by asking Perry if there was a problem. Perry basically replies saying Punk heard him out there about the glass line. Punk asks if Perry knew he could beat his ass. Then Punk either shoved or pie-faced Jungle Boy, grabbed him in a guillotine front headlock, and got broken up. Samoa Joe was right there to break it up reportedly. They got close enough to Tony Khan that it's believed monitors were even knocked down onto Tony. Punk was furious, and several people said he threatened to quit and didn't want to go out for the match. All of this quoted to Brian Alvarez. And Soapy, you said something before we started to record, and I saw this on Twitter, and it's spot on. So the question we were going to ask is CM Punk, is he a bad thing for AEW? Should AEW just get rid of CM Punk? Does the negative outweigh the positive when it comes to the Punkster? And you said something that's actually spot on. You said before we started recording, it's funny how this is now maybe the second, if not more, where you think of All Out, you think of now All In, where after the show happens, we're not talking about the 80,000 plus people. We're not talking about the banger of a match Jericho and Ospreay had. We're not talking about the MJF Adam Cole, how that ended and how they're going to move forward with it. We're talking about CM Punk and another backstage issue that he has with talent on the roster. That is the only thing we're talking about, and like a dark cloud, it's overshadowing what should have been and was a great night.
And it's just one of those things of where it keeps happening over and over again. And now, mind you, I'll even be transparent, because I don't think we were talking about wrestling at all whenever, the All Out one happened, with the Brawl Out. It's like, I was on Punk's side of where it's like, stop leaking to people, blah, 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 blah. Like, I was on his side with that. Just at this point of where it's like, all right, we just, act like adults. Just talk the shit out in the back. Like, if you have a problem with someone, just tell them. The problem is, and this is just where I stand on the whole issue of where it just feels like they don't have, like, a person who's a locker room leader. Don't have someone who acts as that, like, hey, knock it the f*** off, like, we're doing our job here. It just feels like it's a bunch of kids. It just feels like it's a bunch of it's like schoolyard bullshit at this point, of where it's just like, it's the group of friends being like we'll just pick on this guy, but then that guy and his group of friends get involved, of where just, to me, it's at the point of where it's like, I think AEW has to make a decision of like, all right, does Punk outweigh the negative of what he brings? Because, mind you, this is the thing. Punk is genuinely, still, even for his age, like, obviously you can tell, he's not what he used to be. Not prime, like, WWE Punk. You can tell age has caught up to him. Still puts on good matches. He's still great on the mic. Me, I think it's at the point of where you just need to have, like, a locker room meeting and be like, all right, guys, get all your out now. Because it's to the point of, like, because it's going to keep happening. Over and over again, as long as people keep taking little jabs, keep happening. It's just like, dude, can we sit down for 5 minutes? And this is the main negative thing I will ever say about Tony Khan. You know, he does a lot of class act stuff. He needs to shut the f*** up sometimes, because Tony Khan's a weirdo sometimes. But there are times where it's like, he has to try to be someone's boss. He needs to stop being the, like, oh, I want to be everyone's friend, and like, blah, blah, blah. No, you are their boss. You pay their paychecks. You tell them to shut the f*** up or leave. I think, especially with this one, to be honest, like, do I know the whole situation that happened and, like, all the little details? No. Could be wrong about certain things. I'd pick Punk in a heartbeat over Jack Perry. I'll be completely honest with you. Well,
you have been very outspoken. I know, not like publicly, but like to us, you do not like Jungle Boy at all.
I think he's boring. I think in ring he's fine. I think his character is just boring. I don't like that his whole thing is just like, just kind of rely on that your dad was famous. Yeah. Where it's like, I mean, like, dude, the most iconic thing he's done in AEW since splitting with Luchasaurus was Christian pointing out his dad was dead. He's in the line of people that Jericho... Why do I keep saying Jericho?
Christian.
Christian, sorry. There's a Chris somewhere in the name, and my brain just is like, Jericho.
Jericho.
But it's over and over again. It's just like, he's just in a long line of people that Christian just brings up their dead dad. You have a dad and they're dead. Oh, brother, Christian's coming for you. You know what, Ricky? That's what the AEW locker room needs. They don't need a leader. They need a father.
They need a father. That's exactly what they need. But, like, you're so right in the sense that, so I put a tweet in the MVP Discord. Join it down below. Link is in the description. And the Twitter account was @_Kenny Thoughts. And it was spot on. He said, CM Punk is like a toxic ex-girlfriend, completely detrimental to his surroundings, hates everyone that threatens him in any way. But the sex sure is great. And that's what it is, to where it's like, you're going to have these flare-ups. You're going to have the backstage issues. But like you talked about, even though Punk is past his prime, he can still cut a promo better than anybody in wrestling. And his matches are still good. Like, and I'm not talking about like, oh, they like, it was okay. Like, they might not be 5-star matches, but they're pretty like, they're dang good matches. Yeah. Like, he can still
good matches for a guy who is old as him, who took as long of a break as he did.
I'll say this. I'd rather watch a CM Punk match in AEW than a Jericho match now.
I mean, beside the Will Ospreay.
But see, that's the thing. Jericho, right now, it all depends on who's he's in the ring with. I feel like that Ospreay Jericho match, Jericho can meet the level of great talent. Ospreay elevated Jericho, because you and I have talked about Jericho still has it on the mic, but he needs to retire from in-ring work. He just ain't the same.
That's just the whole thing of where. Just honestly, with me right now, the reason why I say that, like, I think Tony Khan needs to step up is now at this point, this is the second time that stuff like this keeps getting leaked out. Now, mind you, we kind of have an idea of who's leaking stuff backstage. Like, we kind of know. And it's the whole situation of, like, if I'm Tony Khan at this point, I'm sitting the people down, leaking stuff to their sheets, be like, you guys need to shut the up.
Yeah.
Stop. Because the problem is, at this point, some of the biggest news that's ever come out about AEW, you know, isn't some of the really great matches they've had or really good storylines they've done. It's solely just, hey, look at all the drama that keeps happening here. Where it's like, you know, AEW just had the biggest achievement, you know, in modern wrestling.
And nobody's talking about it. Very little are talking about it. Yeah.
Like, it's like, and no one cares about it. Because it's just because now it's a shadow. It's just like, can we... 5 seconds, like, and I know none of them are gonna fucking listen to it, like, but like, you know, wrestlers who speak the dirt sheets, there are times, just keep it in the back. It doesn't need to be public knowledge. Not everyone needs to know about it.
Well, it's like you said something that I completely agree with when you were talking about Tony Khan needs to be more of a boss and needs to say like, hey, cut this out, cut that out. This is what it's gonna be. You're not everyone's friend, and I feel like when it comes to AEW, that's what's different between AEW in WWE, where WWE for the longest time, since basically he took it over from his dad, it was Vince runs the show. Vince runs the show. Yes, there's other people that give him insight, but basically with Vince, it was whatever Vince says, boom, that's what's going on. There was a definite, this person's in charge. AEW, they were founded on the concept of, hey, we are not going to be like that. When it first started, it was like, hey, we're going to be a company where the wrestlers are going to kind of be in charge. It was Cody's in charge of this. Kenny's in charge of this. The Young Bucks are in charge of this. The wrestlers are going to be the ones driving creative. Here's the problem. Like, that sounds great and all. Like, as a wrestler, you're probably like, oh man, I might get a fair shot there because it's not some dude in a suit telling me what to do. The problem is they're wrestlers, and this is kind of people in general. We all mostly care about ourselves, and we all want our stories, our interests, us to take center stage. You need that one person to go, you know what? No, we're not going to do that. Or no, we're going to go this. You need the guy that's going to be like, hey, this is the deciding factor. And you can't do that when you're friends with everybody, because Soapy, I don't know about you, but with me, there have been numerous times in my life. It's like they say, never go into business with your friends. Because when you have to have that hard conversation, it's hard to have that conversation with somebody who's your friend compared to just somebody that it's like, oh, we are colleagues. There is obviously a different relationship here.
And a lot of the things of where it's like, I think AEW's done a pretty good job of where, you know, like, the people who are in charge of booking don't put themselves over as much. I mean, because the fact that, for instance, we just saw it at All In, all the people who booked the shows lost their matches. I
mean, or in the sense of Kenny Omega with the women's division, just, hey, don't put anyone over because like, you're not a woman.
It's like, at that point, it's just like, like someone's got to take charge of that. But and I think what the same thing is, one of the problems that at least I have with the way that AEW kind of handles this stuff, of where it's just happens, they don't make a statement about it. They just act like it doesn't exist. And it's like, no, there is at a time that it's like, no, you have to make a statement.
Yeah.
You have to go out and be like, hey, look, we are looking into what's happened, blah, 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 do all that stuff. Don't tell dirt sheets. Don't do that. You run a multi-million-dollar business. Talk to some random reporter who lives in like a one-bedroom apartment. I'm not saying anything bad about people who live in one-bedroom apartments. What I'm getting to is where it's like, brother, you have access to media. Talk to them. So like, that's where my main problem comes in, of where, well, like, it's one of those things as well of like, I've also been vocal about it because I've talked about it in the Discord and I've talked about it with you and Retro and everyone. I think it's Tony Khan also needs to take a step back from booking as well, because he books every single show. The problem is of where, like, you have, you know, so he's booking Dynamite, Rampage, Collision, Ring of Honor, AEW.
Is Rampage
Dark,
even
like,
still going to continue to be a thing now at Collision?
It still is. It still happens. It's still just as bad as it was before.
But what is it like? And this is me just asking because you're more of the diehard AEW than I am. Is Rampage like the third show and it's just a show? Is it like Dark elevated where it's like, hey, it's like Dark, but it's on TV, so it's not dark?
Kinda. One of those weird things of where it's just like if WWE had actual 3 brands and they didn't just occasionally every once in a while be like, oh, NXT's the third, and then when it comes up in conversation, be like, oh, it's the developmental. Because Dark is basically developmental. Dynamite, Rampage, and Collision are like if they had 3 main brands. Honestly, it's, to me, this is just kind of bringing it back towards like the Punk Peery stuff. I think at this point of where, if I'm Tony Khan, I'm sitting down with CM Punk and just being like, all right, look, you know, like, there are people in this roster who don't like you.
I know there's people that you don't like as well.
It's just being like, is there a way we can make this work? Because, you know, with the multiple reports of Punk talking about saying like, I f***ing quit, blah, 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 and like Samoa Joe had to talk him into continuing the match. And I know everyone made the meme that like, oh, they started Collision so CM Punk could only work with the people he wants to work with. Just the problem is of where it's like, if your company's to the point of where you have to separate people because they can't work together, someone has to go. Because then at that point, you're just building a toxic locker room, and this shit's just going to continue.
Yeah.
I know there was, I forget what her name was. It was like the whole drama thing that happened where someone was like, the AEW women's division treated me like garbage. Like,
it was, and
whatever
then
her name was.
I'm going to look it up. I
that's
know
what MJF
exactly
made
what
the
you're talking
comment
about. Yes.
Yeah. Of where it's like, it's also at the same time, and this is just kind of the people outside of the situation, it has always happened in wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
If there are people in locker rooms that do not like each other, it has happened since dawn of time. And like the Miz story is everyone's backhand knowledge at this point of like everyone knows that the Miz got kicked out of the locker room by Chris Benoit because he ate chicken by his gym bag or whatever. Like,
they always bring it up.
Wrestling's always had the stupid bullshit drama. Because let's be real here, like, you know, a lot of people like to portray themselves when they're wrestlers as manly. I have heard some of the most girlish bait, or not when I say girly, I mean like, you know, stereotypical, like
LaFisto.
Like, it's,
that was
you
her
get
name.
people who, yeah. It's just, you see some of the most stupid and, like, baby stories ever, and it's like, oh, someone ate chicken by my gym bag. It's like, oh, boo-hoo, cry me a river, you baby.
But, like,
just, like,
the
I've never seen people act like such in my life, and it's like, dude, some of these dudes are, like, some of the most buff people I've ever seen in my life, and they're like, this guy just said something mean to me. I'm upset. It's like, all right, whatever, you big baby.
So the thing I will say, and this will kind of be, because I agree with you, I think Tony Khan needs to sit down with CM Punk and go, hey, you're either Team AEW or you're GTFO. Like, I've done this for you, this for you, this for you to make sure that you're happy. Eventually, like, because that's the thing. When he came in, there were so many promos of like, I'm gonna work with the best people in this locker room, blah, 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 blah. And then all he's done is just create enemies in that locker room. So like Tony Khan needs to sit down with him and go, hey, you're not running the show. Daddy runs the company, but I run the company via Daddy's permission. This is how it's going to happen.
Daddy Warbucks money that he has.
That he can, like, you know, buy the Jacksonville Jaguars and stuff like that. But like, Khan needs to sit down, have a conversation with him, be upfront about it. I think with AEW also, like, and I don't know where this gets fixed, is so WWE has obviously been around a lot longer than AEW. WWE, in my mind, was lucky that out of the Attitude Era, you had, like, the guy that I think of with locker room culture, Undertaker. If WWE didn't have the Undertaker for as long as they did, it would be a show. Like, he was the dude that kind of kept things controlled. Of like, hey, this is like, I'm gonna keep, like, he was the one that everyone points to as like, yes, he was the one that helped the culture. I don't know who serves that role in AEW. I don't know if they have him now. I don't know who it's got to be, but like, AEW needs to pray that somebody becomes that role. They need somebody that's like and I'm going to say somebody so many times. Somebody! They need somebody to take on that role and be taken seriously at it, because anyone can say, hey, I'm going to take on that role. But if nobody takes them seriously, like, I think the thing with Taker was he worked up such a respect from people that, like, when if he came to speak to you about something like that, you took it seriously because of the respect you had for him.
Also, probably the fear if he'd actually beat the shit out of you if you didn't listen to him. Oh, that probably also helps.
So Miro. Miro's got to be that for AEW. Or Wardlow.
We just need Miro to square up with everyone. Redeemer's about to redeem your ass in the locker room.
Do you have any final thoughts on this? I feel like we beat it into the ground. I've got everything that I've had to say about the AEW CM Punk stuff.
I think just my final comment is just kind of harping back on the, like, not everything needs to be news. Mm-hmm. Of where it's like, dude, if you're talking to people who work, you know, in like dirt sheets and stuff like that, you know, you can continue to tell them stuff, sure, whatever. There are times where it's like, this is just a locker room thing. You just need to stop. Don't tell everyone everything. It's like, and I've always had that mentality when it comes to stuff like this because, dude, like I said, there's been so much bullshit drama that's happened in wrestling history. It's just like how the did that happen? And then like you just get stories that come out randomly when wrestlers retire. Like, yeah, I saw someone get stabbed to death in the locker room. It's like what happened with Bruiser Brody. It's just like no one. It was a story at the time because someone died.
Yeah.
Like you hear stories about that, or like you hear about like if you listen to like older wrestlers when they talk about stories, they'll talk about like local talent said something disrespectful, and the talent just beat the out of the dude, and it's like no one ever hears about that until someone talks about it. It's like wrestling's always had bullshit drama in it. It's just there's times that like you just gotta shut up and just be like, all right, whatever. This is just a locker room thing.
Yeah. Let us know, obviously, what you guys think down below. AEW fans, how would you tackle the situation? Would you be on our side? Is there something that maybe we didn't bring up? Let us know what you guys think. But Soapy, moving on, the second thing we're going to talk about is, what, at this point, from recording, it's been 2 weeks since the Edge Sheamus match on SmackDown? Right? It was that SmackDown, and then we had the sad SmackDown because the tribute to Terry Funk and Bray Wyatt. Our thoughts and prayers are with the families. Like the Bray one hit me because we were chilling in Discord, you and I, and you're like, "Oh shoot, Bray Wyatt died," and I went, "Wait, what?" Like Bray Wyatt. It
sounds so casual that I dropped that.
Well, it wasn't casual. It was more of a shock. Like, whoa, Bray Wyatt died, and I was like, "Wait, what? What's going on?"
I just say you made it sound like I just dropped that. Like I just dropped it nonchalant. Mind you, anyone who's talked to me, I do not change how I say anything, so it would make sense.
So no, here's what it is. It was in a nonchalant-esque tone, but I could hear it in your voice as you said it. That it was that not when you say something nonchalant, and the reason you're saying it nonchalant is because you're so shocked by it that you're like, what are the words coming out of my mouth? Like that you were almost like, wait, what's going on here? And like, I was shocked, like everyone else. But 2 weeks ago, I want to say was the Sheamus Edge match where Edge, they did something afterwards. He talked to the crowd. I believe the Toronto crowd said like, "Oh, this is the last time I'm going to be in front of you guys." And everyone was like, "Oh, Edge is done. That was his retirement match. He had it on SmackDown." Then later, it was August 24th, Edge put out a tweet. I'm actually going to play the video here. This is what Edge had to say on X.
Morning, everybody. That's how I look in the morning. It's not pretty, but need my coffee for this. So I woke up to a bunch of voicemails, texts, and everything from actual like friends and family, wondering what's going on and concerned and blah blah blah. So I just figured I better address it. There's nothing going on. There's no hard feelings between me and WWE. I love WWE. It's my dream gig. It's all I ever wanted to do, and I didn't come at them with some crazy contract or anything, and they didn't deny me. I have a contract extension sitting in my inbox. I just don't know what to do. The first time I had to retire, it was forced, and this time the choice is in my lap, and it's a lot harder. WWE gave me that night, Friday night in Toronto, and it was the best night of my career. A lot of people will say you should retire at WrestleMania or this or that, but it's not their career. That Friday night was really special for me, and I don't know if that can be topped, to be perfectly honest. And if we think we can, then great. But I need to sit with it and just know that whatever it is that I do, whether it's Percy Jackson, which is coming up soon, or it's wrestling, or it's sitting in my rocking chair, it's because I'm having fun, and having fun at this stage of my life and raising my kids are the two most important things. So hope that clears stuff up. I'm gonna go back to my coffee. See you.
So Soapy, he comes out and he says that the things that I thought were interesting is first he says that there's a contract from WWE sitting in his inbox that he has not looked at. In your mind, after hearing Edge talk about like, hey, the last time I retired, I was forced to. This time the decision's in my hands and it's a heavy decision. The first thing I will ask you is, after hearing him talk about it in the Twitter and the X video that he put out there, do you believe that Edge is done? Or do you think we will see him back in a wrestling ring at least one more time for an official retirement match?
I think we see him one more time. I think him saying like this is the last time you'll see me, I think is to the Toronto crowd.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was, was it last year that he said that SmackDown was going to be his last?
I think so.
I remember there was one that he's like, oh, I want to retire in front of Toronto crowd.
I think it was there was a SummerSlam or something in Toronto.
I'm trying to remember what it was. I don't remember exactly.
Because I remember there was a pay-per-view in Toronto and everyone was like, oh, that's the one Edge is going to retire at. And then I don't think he was on the card at all.
That probably was one of the times he got hurt or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we see him again. My main thing is just, I don't know exactly who he'd go against as a last opponent.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing is of like a lot of the, I don't even want to say dream feuds, because the problem is like, everyone, I feel like at this point, dream feud kind of gets thrown around a little too much.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, oh, I've always wanted to see this. Like, but if you told me like 10 years ago, like, oh, hey, do you want to see Edge feud with anyone here? I'm like, why the would Edge feud with him? He can't wrestle anymore.
Yeah.
To me, my whole thing is, I do think we see him again. I have a feeling, though, that I think he wants to work with a young talent. Look, if he's staying in WWE, assuming he's staying there, I think he's going to look to try to put a young talent over. The only thing is, I'm just looking at everyone like, okay, like, who's the young talent going to be? Because, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of young talent. I'm not trying to make it sound like they don't have any. They have a ton of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what, does he go against Peery? Then Peery just kind of gets to beat another legend and then nothing happens from it?
Let me throw this out to you. Let me talk to you. Yeah. But... So there's been something circulating in my head. I don't remember which podcast it was. It obviously wasn't Heel Talk because Edge has never been on the show. But I remember
Edge, we're more than welcome for you to be here.
I remember Edge. Yeah, Soapy's right about that. Edge was talking about it was on a podcast leading up to that SmackDown where he had the match with Sheamus, and they were talking. They asked him about the end. And he kind of did the tongue-in-cheek thing where he didn't really give a definite answer if, like, this would be his last match. But he mentioned one thing, and he mentioned how it'd be cool before he retires to go after the heavyweight championship one last time. There's a thought in my head that I obviously, to answer the question I asked you, we do see Edge again. Whether that's in WWE or AEW, I'm not sure about. The AEW route is easy. If he doesn't want to go back to WWE, he goes to AEW, he has a banger of a feud with Christian, or he's the one that turns Christian face and then they have a banger of a feud with the Hardys. Everyone gets their retirement dream match that they want for those four. The one that I'm leaning on, though, for WWE, and I'm going to need your help with for the very end, because it's taking what you said, putting a young talent over. Edge, in his X video, talked about, hey, I don't know, like, getting ready for the matches is harder. Obviously, Edge is older, and when you get older, it's not as easy to get up for not get up, but like get your body ready for those matches, get beat up in those matches and then recover from them. I think the perfect thing for me, if Edge is going to sign the WWE contract again, I would say we're going to hold you off until the Rumble. So from now until the Rumble, we don't see Edge. We keep the speculation, like we throw fire, like the wood on the fire every now and then of like, oh, is Edge gonna leave? Is that like what's going on? The Rumble is where you make your debut. The Rumble is the one where it's like we get that. I know we already had that a couple years ago of like, it's Edge, Edge is back. But we get that again. The only difference is, in my mind, Edge wins the Rumble this time. We get a Rumble win from Edge. He challenges Seth Rollins. We get a Seth Rollins match at WrestleMania with Edge. Edge wins the heavyweight championship off of Seth Rollins. And this is where I throw it to you, Soapy. Then he gets his final feud where he puts over a young talent who's going to be the next heavyweight. Like, basically, he is putting over the next young heavyweight champion. Who would that be?
I mean, it's kind of that weird thing, because I know the draft happened, if I remember correctly, the draft happens between...
it happens after Mania,
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm trying to think of like who would bounce around. Because the whole thing is right now figuring out like, okay, like in a year, do they call someone up? Do they have, like someone move brands? Because like a person that I'd love to see, now mind you, I don't know if he counts as a young talent because he is older, but he's still newer, is like Grayson Waller. Grayson Waller's a guy, mind you, I think Grayson Waller's going to feud with John Cena anyway, so it doesn't matter. But, I mean, Theory I could see. Hopefully by that point they give Theory a character that's interesting. That's not just, hey, I'm Theory.
Could it be Gunther?
Be Gunther, I think.
Because by that time he's not going to be IC title champ anymore, right?
If he's still IC champ by then, it's like, all right, we smashed Bruno. We broke the honkometer.
The honkometer.
We broke the honkometer, and like we have Gunther meter now, and that doesn't sound as fun as the honkometer.
The Gunther meter.
But like, I don't know, because I'm trying to think of like, Braun Breaker's a guy I think could. I think if Carmelo gets called up by that point, Carmelo.
Well, I mean, it's just. I'm just going to cut you off for a second. The thing that's interesting about this is, like you said, the draft happens after that Mania. Who gets called up before? Like, is the draft going to be the main thing? So it's like Braun or Mello off the table because they probably won't get called up till the draft. Are they going to get called up before the draft, like for Mania season? Would it be right to have a Mello or Braun go from NXT straight to heavyweight champion without like basically jumping the mid card entirely?
It's one of those weird things where WWE's done that actually before. It's like that weird like half-ass one where like they treat a talent like a really big deal, like because they kind of did it a little bit with Theory, just a little bit, because that's when they kept doing the stupid golden egg thing. Fucking hate that. I will never forget the golden egg.
For what was that, Red Notice? The Netflix like with Henry Cavill. No, The Rock and Gal Gadot.
It was promoting promoting that doo ass movie, and then they were like, "Oh yeah, we have this golden egg," and Theory just had the golden egg. Like that kind of made him a way bigger deal. Which I mean, mind you, I'm a Theory stan, so when I say put him on a bigger pedestal than he actually needed to be at that time, I genuinely think that.
Yeah.
It's one of those weird things where they've had people jump up like way faster. Like, I think that they do view Braun Breaker as one of those guys that they're like, just put him in.
Yeah, he's a top guy.
Like, they kind of half-ass at least did it with Gunther, because Gunther's that weird, like, you brought him up and they made him a big deal when he came up.
Yeah.
As soon as he's been IC champ, you could argue he's the best champ in the whole company right now. I mean, I think it's pretty hands down he's the best champ in the company.
We'll get to why he's the best champ in the whole company, but like I'm going to throw this question out there too, because in this whole Edge discussion it's relevant I think. So let's say Edge wins the Rumble. Do you have Seth be the guy that he challenges, or do you have Seth lose the title at the Rumble and then it's somebody else that, like, Edge is still challenging whoever the heavyweight champ is, but do you have Seth be dethroned before the Rumble or on the Rumble so that Edge is challenging somebody else and not Seth Rollins.
I mean, if I want to go with the really cheap route of what I think they would find some way for it to do, because it's a feud that'll never end.
Mm-hmm.
Seth at some point is going to lose the belt, either to Finn Balor or when Damian Priest finally cashes in the briefcase.
I totally forgot he has that briefcase. I totally forgot he has that briefcase.
We can somehow continue this feud for like 4 years at this point. I know it's not actually been 4, but it feels like it's been 4 years.
So I will say this too. I forgot to say this. So by the time this comes out, Soapy, Payback has happened.
Okay.
Payback. So here's how I'm
winning anyway, so.
Here's how I'm thinking about releasing this. Like, we're recording this on Wednesday. I think we're just going to do the same schedule that like we do the draft room. So it's like we record the next day, it's on Patreon, and then that would be so Thursday it's on Patreon, Sunday it's live for everybody. The thing that's kind of weird about that and why I don't know if I want to wait till Fridays is because like sometimes AEW has a pay-per-view on a Sunday and I don't know when weekends are going to fall out, but we'll probably do it something like that. But no matter what, this is coming out after Payback. Does Damian cash in at Payback? Like,
I don't think so.
Does that make this whole part of it kind of moot? Because to me, I'll tell you my dream scenario. I know it won't happen, but I would love John Cena to win the heavyweight belt from Seth Rollins or whoever has it at the Rumble. And then we're getting Edge and Cena at Mania for the heavyweight title. Maybe that retires Cena too. Retire Cena there, and then Edge goes on, puts someone over, and he gets retired.
I could see something like that happening. The only thing is, though, with Cena, I think it's entirely just dependent on how long the writer strike keeps happening.
Because that's the only reason he's coming back.
That's the only reason he's free right now.
Yeah.
I think that's the only reason he's free right now, is just because it's like, well, anything I would be working on is not getting worked on right now.
Yeah.
Or I think, because isn't he only slated for 6 shows or something like that?
I believe so. I'm going to have to double check.
I don't think Cena will be here for a round Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to do something with him and Waller. I think they're going to continue to try to have Cena put young guys over.
Mm-hmm.
Especially just because, I mean, like...
7 straight shows.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, what? That would lead us into... What's that? 7 weeks? Because, 7 weeks leads us up to... What month?
I'm gonna click on the the ones that he.
I guess I just outed myself for not knowing how many weeks are in a month.
4.
So, well, there we go.
Yeah, 4 in a month. So it's like what for the next 2 months. So brings us to maybe Survivor Series or right up to there.
Yeah. So what? Around October, November.
Yeah. So
we're in there.
The shows that he is booked for. I found the tweet here. If it would let me get this picture. The last one's October 27th.
Okay.
Yeah, Friday, October. So it's Denver, Glendale, Arizona, Sacramento in September, and then October, St. Louis, Tulsa, San Antonio, Milwaukee. Looks like they're all going to be SmackDowns or SmackDowns.
Yeah, so that's why I think he's doing stuff with Grayson Waller.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, primarily because I know they also had the whole thing over he's going to be on the Waller effect or whatever.
Again, this time to announce that WrestleMania is coming to Tulsa, Oklahoma.
And really carries a whole lot of weight to Tulsa. Nothing wrong with living in Tulsa. It's just the London one hit way harder than being like, we're going to Tulsa, baby. It's like, man, there's a lot of something in Tulsa.
So let me ask you this. This is off the cuff very quickly. This question pops into Ricky's head. All Out happened, 81,000. John Cena, before that, said the WrestleMania thing. Does WWE look at All In and go, okay, yeah, we should do a WrestleMania in London. We should do a WrestleMania in London. We could easily kill that.
No, they're going to be like, we're going to make them have to make a bigger stadium. Like, we're going to have to be like, do you guys have a bigger stadium than Wembley? like it's going to be now, mind you. I always make the joke. WWE just starts making up numbers.
Yeah.
Like after they get the paid attendance,
Soapy,
like, all right. Well, like,
if
this
they
guy
do-
was outside the venue. He counts, right?
If they do a WrestleMania 81,000 times 2, they'll easily crush. They'll double those numbers.
Well, yeah. I mean, at that point, they literally would crush the largest attendance ever.
Yeah, because it's double nights, 2 nights. You fill it to capacity,
No,
2
because
nights.
it's literally the record is 160,000. If they
Yeah.
crushed that number with the 2-night event, they are literally. It's like they beat the entirety of North Korea.
The entirety of North Korea. Oh,
I can't believe it. They beat them. But no,
But-
I mean, like,
go ahead.
I think that's the plan. I think it's one of those of like WWE kind of showing the little petty side that they have.
Mm-hmm.
Did you also bringing up the petty side still? Did you see that like they released the NFL championship ones?
Yes, and they took the Jaguars. They immediately took the Jaguars out.
I love there was one person like, well, actually, no, it's because it sold out. And someone's like, yes, the 17th most famous franchise in football is the one that got sold out.
My favorite is the X reply where it was basically like Jaguar fans right now. F me. What did I do?
I will always love that 50 Cent video. Me? What do you say me for?
What did you say F me for? Oh. Oh, but yeah, that like there is a sense of pettiness there from WWE.
I think what I want to do, and this is kind of just going back to the Edge.
Go ahead.
I do think Edge is just going to feud with another young guy.
Mm-hmm.
My main thought, and like I do genuinely think that when they do have someone dethrone Gunther, it's going to be Ilya Dragunov. I'm just going with the meme at this point. I want Gunther Dragunov. What? That's like 4? Or do they only have 2 matches?
Is he the 1-2 though? Because like I feel like Ilya might be the next NXT champ. He might be the one to dethrone Mello.
Yeah, he's probably going to. I don't know. Like, it's just one of those weird things of where finding the person for him to feud with, because it's like it's one of those. I don't want him to just feud with another old guy.
Yeah.
I don't want the Judgment Day feud to keep going. I'm tired of it at this point. It's like, guys, I get it. Edge was a part of the Judgment Day. Can knock it off.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I can't really pinpoint like who the young guy would be. If like I want to say Theory, and it's just because I think Theory has it. Just the problem is what he is doing right now stinks.
How about I'm gonna throw this out there, and yet again, we don't like the momentum's hot right now by the Rumble. We don't know what they're gonna do, what storylines he's gonna be put up in. By Mania, so after Mania, Edge is heavyweight champion. Is that the feud to finally put LA Knight into a title contender? And Edge is the one to put LA Knight into his first ever like singles title win.
I could see that.
Like SummerSlam of 24, LA Knight beats Edge for the heavyweight title.
If we're still going with him winning the Rumble thing, because I don't think he's winning the Rumble, but
who, LA
if we're
Knight?
still going with it, with Edge. Like if
Okay.
Edge won the Rumble,
Yeah.
I don't think they're gonna have Edge win it. I don't know who's gonna win it. Watch them have Cody win it again. He has to finish the story again, baby.
I was just gonna say that is the one person who does not need the Rumble win. Does not, like last year it was great. Story should have finished there. Should have just finished there. I'm going to get into it. We're going to talk about Roman. We're going to get into it. It's going to be another hour of the podcast. But like, if they have Cody win the Rumble, that is poor decision making. Poor decision making. You don't need him to win the Rumble in order to finish the story or finish the chapter.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously, if at a later date when we talk about who we think's going to win the Rumble, then I can certainly give mine there. But yeah, like I think Edge is just going to, if he stays in WWE, I think he's going to feud with a young talent and put him over. I think if he goes to AEW, everyone and their brother can already predict the storyline. We're going to get Edge versus Christian, or Edge and Christian retiring the Hardys.
But correct me if I'm wrong. Jeff Hardy is currently suspended?
Beats me. At this point, Jeff could be doing literally anything.
Because, like, didn't he have, like, another DUI that, like...
Jeff's never gonna stop. At this point, that'd be like no, Jeff, like, you need to hang it up, buddy. Like, retire you. Yeah, I know. Like, I want to say, I don't want to just go with the basic, like, oh, well, sorry, basic B word. I keep forgetting I can't swear.
Wait. I want to stop you right there, Soapy. So say what you just said again.
What?
Say what you just said after you said the B word.
What? Oh, sorry, I can't swear anymore.
Ladies and gentlemen, Soapy says he can't swear. I didn't want to bring this up. I didn't want to digress the podcast. Dave Oster now has some competition because, Soapy, we are 53 minutes into this podcast. You have said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
Let's
10,
go!
11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 40, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 50, 1, 2, 3, 4, 55 swear words. Soapy, you were for the first half hour, you were averaging 1 per minute.
Oh, let's go. Coming for the title, Dave. Don't
you already have the title. You won the title. Dave has never had this many.
I'm the return. Dave was waiting in the ring being like, who's going to challenge me?
Dude, you're giving my arm a workout.
My music hit and I came out.
I'll be honest. I would write one down and I'd be like, okay. And then you'd say another one. And then another one, another. It's like boom, 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 boom.
To be honest, I didn't even realize I was doing it.
Exactly.
So,
and that's the thing. You don't realize it until you're like,
you don't realize it until someone points it out and you're like, oh.
I say it a lot.
Okay. It's real weird. Don't do that in public. Didn't even realize I was doing that here.
Literally, I have 54:47 because that's the time on the unedited one. And then the next two came so quick, I just arrowed up. Like, you'll find these shortly after. I have that, let's see, 1, 2, at least 3 times, Soapy. Not a bad thing. You do you. That's why I got the beautiful notepad. See, people can if I can get the lighting.
You can half-ass see it. It's
you can
kind
of see it. Yeah, there we go.
Hold
if
it
I
like at an angle,
tilt it,
you can see the tallies.
There's tallies there. There's things. Plus, I have written down when I'm gonna insert that Edge clip. But like, yeah, I think bottom line is we'll see Edge. I don't think he's done.
Yeah. I think the only reason we possibly don't see Edge is because I know he had talked about before of like, like it is getting really hard on him to do anything physically anymore. Not anything physically, but handle wrestling. It's like the same thing that John Cena said. Where when John Cena was like, oh, like I want to be there for you guys, but like my body just can't handle it anymore. I mean, as a little kid that grew up with these guys, I'm like, dude, my heart, now I feel old. And it's just like at the same time, it's like, I mean, dude, fuck, these guys are pushing into their 40s, worked this, like pretty well into their 40s for some of them. Like, now that you pointed it out, now I'm gonna check myself every time I do it. It's like, I mean, these guys have worked such a hellacious schedule throughout most of their young lives. It's, I mean, like, I'm not surprised that they can't handle it anymore. What if I workarounds for it? Trust me.
I can't wait to hear the eventual workarounds you come up with, because I wasn't going to say anything because I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm fine just editing it. I'm completely fine with just editing it. Also, Soapy, I just like you said the thing that I was thinking. That's why I think like if he comes back to WWE, the Rumble is where I would put. Like that's why I put that break in there, because it's like, hey, take some time off. Even if you sign the contract, take some time off. We don't need you back right away. Like we don't need Edge for Payback. We don't need him for Fastlane. We don't need him for Survivor Series. Come back for Mania. Like if you're gonna come back to WWE, come back for Mania season.
Yeah. Back from when, like, the lights are brightest. Because that's where you've always done your best work, is when the lights are bright.
Now, last thing, and this just popped into my head. Let's say the whole thing is an eventual heavyweight title match at Mania. Does he have to win that, or can you have him lose it and he retires at Mania losing the title. I would rather him win it. I'd rather see him win and then put someone over.
I could see them having him lose, but like it'd be like a really tough loss.
Mm-hmm.
As long as it's not someone on the Judgment Day. As long as it's not Judgment Day, I'm fine.
Damian?
Then if it's Judgment Day, he's just going to randomly come back again.
He wins the title and then puts over Dominic. And then we get Ray in there too. We get it writes itself. And then Dominic is heavyweight champion.
We just turn Dominic into the legend killer. He just retires everyone.
And then Randy comes back and he officially takes the title of legend killer.
He retires Edge, then retires Ray, retires John, then he beats Randy. It's like, oh my god, dude, he's Goldberg.
And when Dom wins it, it's in a ladder match. Because Edge's best matches were ladder matches, and 2, Dominic's first ever match was a ladder match. The custody, the custody match. That's what I was referencing, not his actual match. But Soapy, let's move on to the final part, and we're about an hour in, Soapy, and I feel like this is gonna go for an hour more because this is the really big topic. What were you saying?
So I may as well get comfortable. I know where this is going.
So the last thing we're going to talk about is this was the topic that I originally pitched to Soapy of like, let's start with this one. It wasn't until later on that so how this whole podcast came to be. I asked Soapy, hey, would you like to do a wrestling podcast? Soapy said, yeah, that sounds fun. What do you want to talk about first? And I said, let's do something easy. Let's do Roman and talk about his title reign and how crappy it's been. I shouldn't say crappy. It's just bad for wrestling. And then we added the Edge and the CM Punk thing as they happened. But this was the main thing that we were coming in with. And Soapy, Edge has been pretty much the beginning of the tribal chief. Do you remember the exact date? I'll remember it that way. A month and a year. Do you remember the month and year that we got the official Here's Roman back and was like the official start of the tribal chief?
No, I think I know the match at least.
Give me the match because you're probably right.
Was it Fiend versus Braun Strowman, and that's when he came back with the contract? He kicked the Fiend out of existence.
It was so. I don't know if this was. I don't know if this was that one or the pay-per-view after. But it was Roman Reigns with Paul Heyman defeated The Fiend. Yes, yeah, because The Fiend was champion, Braun Strowman by pinfall, in a no-holds-barred triple threat match for the Universal Championship. Soapy, the date on that, August 30th, 2020. Soapy, what is today's date?
August 30th.
We are recording this, Soapy, 3 years to the day that Roman Reigns' tribal chief graced our screens. And here's the thing. I'm going to be really salty about this, but I will say this. When it first started, I was actually refreshed. Oh man, Roman's so good as a heel. This is the character. And like, there have been parts of the tribal chief storyline that I have liked. Some of the Sami Zayn stuff. Night 1 of Mania with Sami and KO winning the titles. Perfect. The problem is Roman Reigns, like we talked about CM Punk and his ego earlier. Roman Reigns also has a huge ego because from what I've heard, seen everywhere, Roman has creative control. Soapy, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this. Has creative control on the tribal chief stuff.
I'm assuming so.
Why would he give up the titles? Why would he? Why wouldn't he just hold them forever? And the thing that really irritates me is Paul Heyman, and I'm not mad at Paul for this because this could be just Paul riling people up because Paul Heyman's really good at that. But it was after the last pay-per-view we had with Roman where he's like, man, with this tribal chief storyline, we're not even done with it. We're not even to the good stuff. If this was a baseball game, we're in the bottom of the third. And I'm like, the bottom of the third? We better be in the 8th inning because this has gone way too long. And like, the reason why I hate the tribal chief storyline now is, Soapy, it should have ended last year at Mania. Mania should have been, they pulled the Usos, they pulled the right string there. Cody Rhodes should have been champion. We did not need the tribal chief anywhere near that because I'll be completely honest. What this has done, yes, we got the heavyweight title back. Cool. Everyone loves the heavyweight title. However, it's still the B championship to the A championship, which is the one that Roman Reigns has. It's just all of his, you say it all the time during his pay-per-views now. All of his matches are literally the same. You script them out. As we're watching it, Soapy will be like, this is coming, this is coming, this is coming. And everyone can see it. Everyone can see it. They're exactly the same. I don't need to see him go up with Jey Uso again. I don't need him to go up with Sami again. I just need him to lose the titles because here's the thing that WWE has created. Yes, they wanted him to beat, what was it, Hulk Hogan? Was that what they were chasing?
Yeah, he's going after Hogan's record.
Like, I get it. You want Hogan, but like, so I've never been a fan of long, like really long title reigns because in my mind, they're not always bad, but they're very hard to get right. And the reason why they're very hard to get right is it's very easy for it to go stale. It's very easy to have lulls in the story. And right now, Roman's is stale. It's stale. It's to the point where every Roman match, I don't even believe the other side can win. The only way I pop is like, oh, finally, is this going to end? And like, I feel like when they find like, and this is why I think it's the worst right now. And I'll ask you what you think about this last part, Soapy. The great thing about a title reign to me when it ends is not expecting it to end. Like, whoa, okay, that happened. The pop from it. When Roman finally loses, it's not going to be like a, whoa, Roman finally lost. It's going to be a, oh, thank God that's over. It's going to be a relief of like, oh, thank God. Thank God that chapter's behind us. That's not good. That means it's gone stale. And it's basically also holding the entire WWE storyline hostage.
Yeah, it's one of those weird of like, because I'm not as against it as you are, and I'm not saying you're entirely against it, but
it's had good moments.
Yeah, to me, I think it's reached its crescendo, if I could ever speak English.
Crescendo.
Now I'm watching every word I say.
Oh no, I got in his head.
Rent free up there. No, like it hit its crescendo. Like it's, to me, I think Cody was the peak of what you're gonna get because obviously, you know, like you had the Sami stuff and that was really interesting. Before that, the Bloodline was starting to get boring before Sami joined. Everyone was starting to get tired of it. We're like, oh, are we really gonna get this? And then Sami joined and then reinvented it and revived it. Now Sami's gone from it again, and we're slowly starting to head back into that like do we really care moment? Because I mean, at this point, I'm gonna be completely honest. It's basically just Roman and Solo right now, right? Like, because Jimmy's technically not back in, Jay's out. Where it's like, so we now have arguably the two most boring members of the Bloodline left. How do you continue this, especially now with the fact that Roman, I'm pretty sure, is hurt? So he's not going to be on TV. So now, how do you keep people interested? Because I know people have used the, like, oh, you know, like, he's not on TV all the time, because then when he is, you pay attention. And that's the thing. The YouTube views show people like the Bloodline. Get some of the most viewed stuff they've ever done on YouTube.
Except for LA Knight.
Aside from, like, LA Knight. But he's the wild card here. Me, I think it's at that weird moment of, I do think it's going to be more of a cathartic, like, thank God it's over. I think you missed the golden opportunity to cement Cody as a star. The problem is of where, listen, Cody is a star. I'm not denying it. I'm not being a salty AEW boy when I say that. Cody is an absolute stud. I love him. I hope he does great things everywhere he goes. Like, but he's just kind of existed since that feud. Like, I didn't care about his stuff with Brock personally, mostly just because I'm like, why is he feuding with Brock? Is Brock just the ultimate hater and that's the storyline?
Yeah.
Like, that's just my thing.
Just real quick, you're talking about the Cody Brock one, right?
Yeah. How Cody's whole feud since then has just been Brock hates him for some reason.
I will say the thing that saved that feud for me was the very unscripted moment we got from Brock at SummerSlam.
Hug
right?
At the end.
Like that to me was like, oh, okay. Like at least something like that surprisingly like came out of it. Do we know exactly what Roman's injury is? Or was it just he had an injury at SummerSlam?
He got hurt during the tribal combat match. A lot of people are assuming it's something with his back. When Jay did the dive to the outside and he hit Roman on like the small of his back. It was unless Roman got really good at selling facial expressions, it looked like he actually got hurt. Mind you, I will say, I think Roman has massively impressed me for most of this. Now, mind you, like I said, his matches are really predictable.
Yeah.
You could technically say that for every wrestler ever. Like, if you watch a Stone Cold Rock match, you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
You're getting the greatest of all worlds. Like, you're getting the, like, oh, someone's gonna oversell the other's finisher, and all that fun stuff. But to me, Roman has improved so much from when he was the big dog. Like, him leaving to come back as the tribal chief, I hated Roman to death. I was like, anytime Roman's on my screen, I want to stop watching. He came back as a tribal chief. I was like, this is actually interesting.
Yeah.
I'm also the one that has said over and over again that he should have turned heel on the Shield instead of, Seth. That's a horse I'll beat to death later in a different video if we talk about that. To me, like, he is massively improved from where he was. It's the problem that I have with his reign right now is, and I'm gonna sound like a hater, and I know it's gonna come off that way. I don't even think he's the best part of the bloodline. I genuinely think the Usos have been better. I think that Sammy was better. I think Paul Heyman, whenever he talks, is better. I think the only person he's better than in the bloodline is Solo.
Yeah.
Where it's like, he's now at this point, you are hoping Roman and Solo can hold up a ship that's already starting to sink.
Yeah. And like, I will say this. I am fully prepared, and I would love to be proven wrong. I would love from today going forward, September on, the bloodline gets fixed and it ends miraculously, and everything I said today was wrong. Like, hindsight's always 20/20, but like, leading up to this point, I feel like what we just said, last year's Mania was the pinnacle. That was where the championship bloodline needed the end. Like, the tribal content, that's basically what it was. Tribal content. The tribal content, that didn't need a title. Like that's the thing I've also seen, to where it's like, so what's the prize here? The title or being tribal chief? Because like, you're diminishing one by having both of them be the prize. Like, so what? I can't be the tribal chief unless I'm the champion? Like, I feel like it would have been so much better if it's like, oh, well, Cody gets the championship. Roman deals with the loss, the Usos loss. That creates dissent in the bloodline. The bloodline starts to crack. Then it would have made more sense of like, oh, why a Jay or a Jimmy would have challenged Roman, because it's like, oh, you're no longer the top dog. You lost your championship. You know what? Anyone could be tribal chief. I could be tribal chief. Boom. That starts the tribal content. That starts the combat for everything. Like, that would have been so much more compelling than, oh, he beats Cody. Oh, he beats so-and-so. Oh, he's going to fight Jay again. Oh, he wins. Like, to me, it's just like, it doesn't matter who Roman goes up against, because Roman's just going to win 1, 2, 3. It's going to be spear, spear, punch, punch. Let me get you down 1, 2, 3, and I win.
And I follow in that same sentiment over. To me, everything that's happened post-Mania hasn't felt like it needed a belt.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because the fact of, a lot of it's just descent in the bloodline of where, like, and I get what they're going for. If it's the, like, he's like, oh, blah, 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 I'm the one who provides for the family. Now, look, I understand, kayfabe is different than reality. The Anawahis are not struggling for money.
No.
Probably the greatest wrestling family of all time is not struggling for money. When you have the freaking Rock. Sorry, I had to put emphasis behind that one. I got halfway through. I'm like,
you do you. I got my pencil. We got technology. We're not doing it live.
That's just the whole thing. To me, it's just like, they want to separate reality and kayfabe, but it's like, dude, we're in a post kayfabe era. Everyone knows everything that everyone's doing.
Yeah.
In reality, Roman's not a douche canoe. We know he's not. Like, we've seen him be nice to people. Like, he does charity work. He does stuff like that. I'm not going to believe he's basically Hitler. No, I'm not going to believe that.
I would say it's basically harder to be a bad guy in wrestling now. Unless you're, like, actually a bad guy to the core.
Like, unless you literally do what MJF does.
And live the character.
Never show any good thing you ever do. And just your only social media presence is being a douche. Like, that's the only way you can work now, because it's, to me, that's why it's whenever it's like I provide for the family, blah blah blah. It's like, well, one, I know damn well Rikishi ain't struggling for money. I know The Rock couldn't even care. The Rock makes more money than the whole family combined at this point.
Even when he's not working.
Really, The Rock can sleep on a pile of money that gets replaced every day, and he'll never run out of money. Like, let's be real here. We don't need to try to act like Roman's elevating the family. The Rock did that 20 years ago.
Well, no. Will Ospreay elevates.
Really? If you're even associated with the Anawahi family, you get a job at this point. Hell, Nia Jax got a fucking job.
She might be coming back. I don't want her anywhere near wrestling.
She had a job because she's loosely associated with them. I guarantee Umaga's 2 kids are going to end up in wrestling somehow. Like, whole Anawahi family just gets a job because of the Anawahi family. I'm not saying that's a negative thing. The Anawahis are probably the best wrestling family ever. Like, it's just one of those things where that's the main part of it that I don't like, of where it's like, no, the Anawahi family's not struggling. You're not some nobody Samoan family. Like, for instance, when I say nobody, I'll use Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe, like, the only Samoan in wrestling that's not associated somehow with The Rock. I know someone's going to probably pick that. Look, dart a dartboard with some Samoan families. There is probably some connection to the Anawahi family in there somewhere.
Yeah.
When you look at a Samoan family tree, you're looking at the Amazon rainforest of connections. There's vines leading to all these other places. They're like this is like our 6th cousin, but they're like 10 years older than us. Like, it's so annoying. That's the part I don't like.
Really quickly here, you said a comment earlier that I said I'd get to here. Were you? It was about Gunther. You said that he's the best champion right now? Is that what you said? I
think Gunther is the best current champ in WWE right now.
And you want to know why? Because, like, right now, like, people might be thinking this and go, oh, Ricky's just hating on long title reigns. Gunther's had a long title reign. Every one of Gunther's matches has been bangers. Like that's the thing. If the matches were entertaining and weren't stale, then maybe it would be a different story. But, like, the thing is, the matches aren't great. The story has gotten stale. Like, I feel like I almost want to say that I agree with you. Gunther is the best champion, because even with, like, the heavyweight championship, nothing against Seth Rollins. I think that title is working. Like, that title is working uphill because of the Roman stuff. Because the only reason it was created was because Roman had both titles and Raw didn't have a championship, and they needed Raw to have a championship. So it's like, I feel like Roman in general, this whole tribal chief character, if we're looking back in hindsight, has done more harm and more hurt to wrestling than help. It has not made WWE overall better in my mind. Maybe that's me being too harsh.
I think it's a double-edged sword.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's one of those things that we're like, I think it's fair to say this is the biggest storyline WWE's had in a hot minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the numbers back it up and everything. My whole perspective of it just becomes, and this is just where I sit with it, of, like, it's the biggest storyline WWE's done in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem of, like, only a select few have benefited from it. It's like, Sammy benefited from the fact of, like, people were kind of iffy on Sammy for the most part. Really got people to like Sammy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, overall, like, it hasn't helped a whole lot of people involved. It's only really helped those in the bloodline. Because, like, I mean, like, obviously, everyone in the bloodline has benefited because they're associated with Roman.
Yeah.
Roman's benefited the most. Like, Sammy benefited because, he was in it. And it's like, I don't think KO got any super benefit out of it, aside from just that he got good Twitter content out of talking about how the ref screwed him over because they didn't count when they couldn't get the handcuffs undone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, outside of that, like, I really don't think anyone's benefited from it aside from the bloodline. It's like, if your plan is for Solo to be the next big, Samoan star in the company, like, I'm going to be completely honest. With the way that Solo's presented to me right now, I don't think he can hold that mantle. Now, mind you, if they bring back what he did in NXT when he was the street champion, I think you got something to work with. He does have a good personality, and, like, he's an okay talker. He's not going to elevate anyone too high in a conversation, but, like he'd get ripped apart by LA Knight. Let's be real here.
So,
I mean, most wrestlers would.
I want to throw out here really quick. So these are the pay-per-view title matches that Roman's had in the last 3 years. So right after winning the Universal title, Clash of Champions 2020, he beat Jey Uso. Then Hell in a Cell beats Jey Uso in an I Quit match. Then at TLC 2020, beats Kevin Owens. Then at the Rumble, Last Man Standing, Kevin Owens. Then at Elimination Chamber, beats Daniel Bryant by referee decision. Fastlane defeats Daniel Bryant with Edge as the enforcer. WrestleMania, triple threat, double pins, Daniel Bryan and Edge. Backlash defeats Cesaro. Then he had Money in the Bank defeats Edge. Then after Money in the Bank took a little time, SummerSlam 2021 defeats John Cena. Then we have, let's see, if I'm scrolling through, he had some SmackDown stuff. Like, I know Xavier Woods, King Xavier. He went against Extreme Rules, defeats Finn Balor. You've got Crown Jewel defeats Brock Lesnar. This is all 2021. Then he has the contenders with King Xavier Woods. And then my point being, how many of those guys actually, like you said, benefited? The one that pisses me off the most is I mentioned it twice. I mentioned his name twice, is the King Xavier. Xavier had momentum. And this is not just because Ricky likes Xavier Woods and I like the New Day. Xavier had momentum as King of the Ring. Being king. What did feuding with Roman do positively for Xavier Woods?
Yeah, aside from literally Roman breaking his crown, nothing.
Well, exactly. He broke his crown. He wore his crown. Like, it was like, okay, Xavier's got momentum. Let's just squash Xavier. Like, whatever the tribal chief is the death in wrestling. Whatever it touches dies. nobody, like you, maybe Sami Zayn, but guess what? Sami Zayn didn't go 1-on-1 with Roman at Mania. He went 2-on-2 with the Usos. The Usos are not the tribal chief.
It's just everything eventually just kind of reaches a screeching halt when it hits with Roman.
Yeah.
Because like Cody, I think, is the only one who's kept his momentum post Roman. Because like stuff with KO and Sammy, people are starting to kind of get tired of it already. And it's just because the fact of, mind you, the tag team booking has been real rough.
It didn't help that KO got injured again too.
Well, and then also Sammy was on and off hurt too. Well, it's one of those things of where, like, you know, Sammy's already started to cool off. Like, none of those people really got propelled to new heights with their feud with Roman. It just kind of brought everything to a screeching halt. Like I said, Cody is the only one who really persevered through it. Continued on. And I'll mind you, like, Cody's more popular than he's ever been. That's also, I think, just because people just like Cody. One, Cody just has the whole package of a wrestler. He can talk. It's a great theme to sing along to. In the ring. Like, he literally just has everything. That's why, to me, I look at it as, like, he's the only one who could have survived it, because, like, KO has all of that stuff. Let's be real. There's nothing to sing along with KO's theme.
Yeah.
And I'm not bashing KO when I say this. I love KO.
I mean, Seth Rollins. The whoa.
That's the thing. You reach new heights when you can sing along to someone's song.
Yeah.
But that's the thing of where it's like KO is just kind of hung out. KO just never really elevates higher or anything. Like, nothing ever really helps some of these people. Like, it's also because when you went through and listing matches, I genuinely forgot 90% of those happened.
Exactly.
I forgot about his match. The only reason I remember the match with Finn Balor was because that was the Demon King, and he beat the Demon pretty easily at that.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so we just kind of turned the Demon into fodder now. Okay.
And that was what officially killed the Demon, because, correct me if I'm wrong, that was the first time we had seen the Demon since the Fiend beat the Demon. No, did the Fiend beat the Demon at SummerSlam?
He never fought. He brought it out sometime around then. He never faced the Fiend with it though. Okay. Because that's what everyone wanted. Was
that's right.
When they
You're
had
right.
The Finn,
You're right. He came out in the white attire. That's what it was.
Because they wanted it. Because everyone wanted the Fiend versus the Demon, and then my whole thought was like, brother, I want to watch the match. I don't want to watch 15 minutes of entrance of Finn crawling to the ring and then Ray walking slowly towards the ring. I want to watch just that. But that's the thing. None of these guys benefited. Like, I just love the random push in there of Cesaro just randomly getting an actual match against someone.
Yeah.
It's like, I completely forgot he had 3 matches with Daniel Bryan. Remember the last one just because I'm like, I remember him getting triple pinned. It's like, dude, imagine someone, imagine this, Ricky. Like, 8 years ago, peak of Daniel Bryan, double title reign, someone told you that guy gets double pinned.
I'd be like, get the hell out of here.
The biggest star in wrestling at that point, I mean, at least in the WWE sphere, because around that point, that's also what AJ's doing his stuff in New Japan. So, that's the thing. But the biggest star in WWE, 8 years later, gets double pinned. Along with one of the guys who were previously one of the biggest in the Ruthless Aggression era. Double pinned. It's just, to me, I don't think it's benefited anyone. I want to say that it's benefited people. The list is so small, and it's solely because of the fact of what are any of them going to do post Bloodline? What, Roman's going to go away for a little bit, just come back and beat Brock Lesnar 2.0?
Yeah. Like, and I just...
Like what, Solo will maybe be relevant for a month, and then people will stop caring. Unless he is Paul Heyman.
And I'll say this. Out of all the titles right now, you know what one recently, like I'm talking real recently, you know what one I've had the most fun with? The U.S. title. Because, like, here's the thing that, like, and yet again, I'm going to sound like an old head for saying this because, like, maybe this is my nostalgia taking over and misremembering things. But, like, so I grew up when I was a kid, the Attitude Era, like 96, 97 was like the height. Started getting in when I was 5, but like 96, 7, and 8, those were like my A days. Like I would say 6, 7, and 8 were the A days. Still watched in 9, 10, or in 9, 2000, 2001. kind of like 2003, 2004 is where I started to fall out. Went to high school. My friends at that time didn't really watch wrestling. So I kind of fell out with it, and I didn't come back until my adult years. Like, I still kept up with, like, when I still remember when Seth Rollins cashed in the heist of the century. I remember seeing it trending on Twitter, watching it and going, like, oh, that's cool. Like, I kept track from afar of wrestling, but like didn't get back into it until it was the New Orleans WrestleMania. The one that absolutely it killed me, because coming into that Mania, I'm like, oh man, this Asuka chick, I really love her. She's awesome. Like it was like a couple months of me like, okay, who's going to be the people that I root for? And I loved Asuka. And then that match with Charlotte killed me. I hated that match. But like, my point being is, I think I remember as a kid, I could be watching a normal Raw or a normal SmackDown. Title could change hands on that Raw or SmackDown. I feel like that doesn't happen as much anymore. Like, let alone the title be defended on a Raw or SmackDown. If it is, it ain't going to change hands because they're going to save that for the pay-per-views.
And I mean, and that's just kind of a thing that's happened with a lot of wrestling, is wrestling has kind of moved towards the, like, oh, the big moments happen on the pay-per-view, because obviously that's where you get the most money. But yeah, like, that's just the whole thing of where, to me, like, I've had the most fun with the Intercontinental title, mostly because Gunther's GOAT, basically. Like, it's literally just because the fact of it's like, even when, like, you get the feeling of it's like Gunther's not losing, it still feels it's like they could reasonably have Gunther lose here, because the way that they book Gunther is like, okay, someone could actually beat him.
Yeah.
With Roman, you go into the match and it's just like, well, you're gonna see the couple hope spots if they almost win. It's like, I think genuinely the only time I've been surprised in the entirety of the time that they were doing the Bloodline stuff was when they had the weird tag match between the Usos and Roman and Solo, where they had the Usos beat Roman. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'm like, that is the first time we've seen Roman get pinned this whole time. And then he just absolutely beat the snot out of Jay.
Yeah.
And it's just like, cool. So this just didn't happen? We just don't care now?
Yeah, I'm just at the point where I can't wait for it to end. And the thing that sucks is, guess what? It's probably not... It ain't going to end anytime soon. If it does end, it's going to end at Mania. And guess what? There's not even... If we're in the bottom of the third right now, Soapy, WrestleMania, that might be the bottom of the fifth. Maybe the bottom of the fourth. I don't know how long these innings are.
Ricky, you got to think, though. There's at least 3 more Anawahi family members out there that can join the Bloodline. You got Zilla. You got... I forget the other one's name. It's the other Fatu. It's the other of Umaga's kids. There's those 2, and I think there's one more. We got one more that we can plug in here. Or then, if we even want to start getting real wild, we put people who aren't actually members of the Anawahi family in there. Tamatonga, I think, is a free agent. All I'm saying. You just start plugging Samoans and Polynesian people in here like they're nobody's business, and just be like, hey, look, we both have tribal tattoos. That looks pretty cool, right? I'm
starting to hate the Bloodline so much. Like, so much. Like, I'm telling you this. If it goes past WrestleMania, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
My main worry is just, and this is also my thing as well, because I know I had talked to it about it with Retro before.
Yeah,
I don't get the point of breaking the records. They're already set. It's like, when people bring up like those records, let's be real here. If I asked 99.999% of wrestling fans if they could name who's had the 5 longest title reigns, they couldn't tell you.
Here's
Guaranteed,
also,
they couldn't name number 1. Let's be real here.
Here's also the difference, though, and this is something we haven't gotten into, is so Bruno Sammartino, that's number 1 in case you didn't know. The thing that was different about Bruno's time compared to now is you might know the exact specifics, Soapy, more than I, because you're smarter than I am in this. But like, back when Bruno was champ, it wasn't like, oh, there's a show on Monday, there's a show on Friday, and then there's a pay-per-view every month. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was like weeks in between shows because they were literally traveling like territory style.
Yeah, you would be lucky. Like, let's say, like, because they traveled in, I forget the exact area that WWE,
Yeah.
what would later become WWE traveled. I'm trying to remember. I think I think it was New York, Connecticut, and it was like places just along the East Coast, but like upper East Coast. They didn't go down south because they did not do good there. Like, let's say like you have a show in Albany, New York. I'm just going to use that as an example. I don't know if that's actually a place they ever wrestled in. Like, let's say they start in Albany, they travel around. It may be a couple months before you see Bruno Sammartino again. That's why, to me, it's such a big problem with people bring up that record and like, well, is anyone ever going to break it? No.
Yeah,
because no one's going to want to watch someone every day, like every week, for 7 years. The champ. Like, because then at that point, you eliminate all competition. The reason why I genuinely think Bruno has that record that'll never be broken, no one will care about someone for 7 years straight.
Exactly.
The only reason people did with Hulk Hogan is because he fucking just flexed his orange head, like neon yellow hair, and just like body slammed a big dude one time.
I mean, let's be honest though.
Discrediting Hulk Hogan.
Yet again, wrestling during Hogan and the Mega Powers. Yet again, a different kind of wrestling where I hate to be like this because it's kind of like it's kind of the SHIT show way of saying this, but like how Max Landis said it in Wrestling Isn't Wrestling, where it was like, I'm the bad guy because I'm the Russian guy and I'm bad. And it's like, I'm the American, I'm the good guy, that's what it was. And Hulk Hogan,
Eagles, baby.
And Hulk Hogan, say your prayers, eat your vitamins. He was the good guy. People want and maybe that's another thing that goes into this that maybe we haven't talked about. Like, would it be different if Roman was a face? Do long title reigns work better for faces than they do heels? Because you're looking at somebody and you want them to be champion, rather than I look at Roman and I hate his actions and I hate what his character does. And I go, I don't want you to be champion because you're the bad guy. You're the guy I don't want to win. And like, I don't know, maybe this is me putting real world into my wrestling, but like, the world beats me down enough, Soapy, in my everyday. The last thing I want to do is like, I get in stories, sometimes the bad guy's going to win. And that can create compelling stories because in order for the little guy to win, the big guy has to have power. But at the point the bloodline's at, the world beats me up enough in my regular life. Then I got to watch wrestling and the bad guy's got to beat me up even more. Like, it's just not enjoyable.
Well, especially because I think it's just one of those things of where, like, no one's believable to beat Roman anymore. Because he's beat Brock so many times. We already saw Brock was an impossible hurdle for everyone else before.
And at this point, I don't even know if Cody's done what he needs. Like, Cody's not any better. He had a feud with Brock.
It's like, so the only thing is, like, okay, cool, they've both beaten Brock at this point. Everyone and their brother knows Cody's going to be the one to beat him. Because they keep doing the finish the story and all that fun stuff. Like,
you know what
every time.
Sorry to cut you off. You know what they should be doing with Cody? And I think me and you talked about this. Every single feud that he has now until Mania, now until he challenges, they should be hinting at him picking up a skill that's going to help him beat Roman. Do the Mega Man approach. Every boss you beat, you gain an ability that's going to help you beat the final boss.
I mean, yeah, may as well. I mean, because at this point, that'd be more interesting than just him feuding with Brock, because Brock's a hater. That's the only thing of just where, to me, that's, I think, one of the biggest downsides right now in wrestling is just Roman is this unbeatable boss that's just sitting there, and it's anyone that goes against him, you just know, like, they're going to lose.
Yeah.
Where, like, you know, you had the one time that everyone was like, oh my god, wait, this guy could beat him in Cody, and it just didn't happen.
Well, it should have beaten him.
Like, you know, and maybe this is also just a thing as well, of like, I guarantee we would look at this storyline completely different if we were kids. You know, as adults, you know, like for instance, like obviously that's the same thing with everything.
Yeah,
Like when I was a kid, I genuinely thought Great Khali murdered Rey Mysterio when he head chopped him and the blood came out of his mask. I'm like, he's killing my boy, stop him.
I mean, with me, I'm trying to put myself back into like my kid self because I don't know about you, I never sided with the bad guy when I was a kid.
Sometimes
I always was a good guy, Stan. Like I was always siding with the good guys. So for me, I would probably just hate Roman as a kid and root against him.
Because what I'm meaning is like of how like right now we're just annoyed with it. We're just to the point of like we're just done with it. What I mean is like as a kid, would you be more invested because it's, you know, like I said, as a kid, you know, you don't understand everything as much.
Yeah.
Where like me, I almost think like if I was a little kid watching this, I'd probably enjoy it. Because like, you know, for instance, like even as a little kid, I didn't like Super Cena. I didn't like the Cena beat all the bad guys, mostly because by the time that I started liking a lot of the bad guys, that's all the people he kept beating.
Yeah.
But like to me, I almost wonder that like if we were little kids again and like we had the belief that wrestling was real. It was like if we would carry that same sort of like mentality that like I used to have of like no one can beat John Cena, he's John Cena. Like I was that kid. I almost wonder if like it's that weird mixture of like wrestling feels catered towards younger kids, but at the same time not. I almost wonder if we would look at this storyline differently if we were younger. Now, mind you, I make it sound like I'm like 70 years old. I'm only 22, turning 23 next month. But
I'm gonna say this, maybe a little bit, but like yet again, to answer your question, I think about when I was a kid, and one of the reasons I asked you the question at the beginning of the podcast, I'll kind of give a deeper answer. One of the reasons why I love Stone Cold Steve Austin is because when I was a kid, he was what I envisioned I could be. And not like, I'm not saying like, oh, wearing jorts, a vest. I'm not saying that. I'm saying
being
like the way he spoke to Vince and the way he told his boss off. I would watch Raw and it'd be sometimes like, yeah, you know what? I wish I could tell my teacher off. I wish I could tell my principal off. Like, you know what? They made me angry. I wish I could do that. I was living vicariously through him. Like, oh, this bully at school. I wish I had the stones to tell him off like Stone Cold would tell off the guys who bully him. But then I think about another person during my childhood that had literally a time called the Reign of Terror, Triple H. Yeah, people hate it, but I think about as a kid, I really didn't view it like people view it now, because I remember being a kid and every time he would do something, it would be because he was a chicken heel. And every time be like, wait, he's cheating. Look at that. No, you can't do that. You can't do that, because kids, the ones that are good kids, are really like, this is the rule. You can't break the rule. And the problem with Roman is I don't know many like, unless I'm just forgetting them. There's been some times where it's like, oh, Roman is the heel, broke the rules. But there's not a lot of times where it's like, oh, he only won because he breaks the rules. Where Triple H's were like, he was breaking the rules 99.9% of the time. That's the only reason he was able to hold on. Like, I am not better than you, but I am smarter than you, and I will break the rules to have you to basically to win. Like Eddie Guerrero, I'm going to lie, cheat, and steal my way into championships. Roman is like, it's like they're trying to do Triple H's reign, but without the cheating part. It's like they take Super Cena and put him into the Triple H storyline, where it's like I look at Cena or I look at Roman and go, oh, you're just trying to build him up as an unstoppable force that will never be beat.
Because, I mean, he half cheats because they have it to where, like, the bloodline gets involved in every match and the ref is always blind.
Yeah. But, like, I'm saying like, him himself, I guess.
I mean, there's been a couple times I keep low blows people, but, like, it's very rare. Yeah, like it's one of those weird things of where to me it does kind of feel like they're trying to recreate like the Reign of Terror, but they don't realize the parts of the Reign of Terror that people liked was when Triple H lost.
Yeah. Well, and there was a reason why we called Triple H the cerebral assassin. Because he was playing 3D chess or 4D chess, however you want to look at it. He was playing a chess match of like, I'm not just going to come in there and basically it's Superman, spear, spear, spear. It's like, what? Are they trying to make Roman into Goldberg? Because Goldberg didn't need a title to be Goldberg. If that's what you're trying to do, he doesn't need the title to be an unstoppable force. And I'm sorry, when champions are unstoppable, it usually gets boring after a while. Case in point.
Like, I think the only time champions aren't boring when they're unbeatable is if you make it believable they could lose at any time.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, that's why I think Gunther's really good. Of like, they built up Gunther to where, like, yeah, Gunther's a BA. He is going to beat the crap out of you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you reasonably could be like, yeah, like, a good place finisher can beat Gunther. With Roman, it literally feels like all right, guys, we got to get the gun out, shoot Roman at least 3 times. Because the first 2 ain't going to put him down 3 times, bury him under cement for a week.
Is this Nazi zombies? We got to get the ray gun. We can't beat Roman without the ray gun.
Guys, keep hitting the box until we get the Wonder Weapon to beat Roman Reigns. We have to do the wrestling Easter egg to be able to beat Roman.
I feel like when it gets to the end, it's going to be, like I said, relief. Relief that the reign of Roman is over and hopefully new days are ahead. Brighter days are ahead.
Because I definitely think, because I know we talked about this at least when Mania happened, because I believe Sean was on the side of, like, he was fine with the reign continuing. Me, I don't think many people will look back at this reign fondly. And the reason why is because the fact of, to me, nothing matters about the reign from when you start till you end. All that matters is the end.
Yeah.
If your reign ends in a really good way, if it's a feel-good moment, or it's a heartbreaker, whatever, that is the part people will remember. I don't care what you did in the middle of it. I don't care about that part.
Is there a way, let's say Cody beats Roman at Mania, that's the outline. Is there a way they can do it without it just feeling like, oh man, I wish they would have just done that a year ago? Or is it inevitable?
That's the part that I don't know about. Problem is, to me, and I know this is going to happen as soon as he circles around back to Roman, they're going to just mention Dusty again. That's all they're going to do. They're going to circle.
See, but I liked that. I liked and they did it in the documentary for Cody. I love that Cody came in with a mission of, no, I don't want any other title. Because this was when they had the Universal and the WWE Championship. He didn't think twice about the Universal. He's like, I want that one. I want the WWE Championship because that's the one my father never won. And because I told my father that's the one I'm going to win. After he cut that promo where he showed the picture of his dad, like holding it up, but like he didn't win because of count out, I was all in. I was like, yes, this is how you drive that story.
It's my thing and we can talk about Cody at a different point in time because I have my own opinions on it. But
yeah,
I don't like that the whole feud just centers around Dusty. It's like, I'm not watching Dusty, I'm watching Cody. I don't want to, that's my thing. It's just, I know it's going to happen. And that's the thing I don't look forward to, of where it's like, is every feud that Cody gets involved in just going to be, hey, I'm going to mention your dead dad? Like, I know I joke about that. I like when Christian does it.
Yeah.
Because Christian just does it randomly. He will make it part of the feud that your dad's dead. Like, to me, I don't look forward to the fact of, when that inevitably happens again, where it's just going to be like, cool, it's just going to feel like this time he's not going to get cheated and he's going to win.
Yeah. They like I said, they should have pulled the trigger at last Mania. The only reason I feel like he brings up Dusty so much now is because he does want to win that title for his dad. Like, he actually said that to his dad. I believe him when he says that. And it's like, it's not like, oh, bring up your dad because that's all you are. It's the kind of like, hey, this is my motivation for winning that championship.
Like I said, we'll keep that for
Yeah.
a later time when we talk about it.
But it's just like the question I asked you, I'll answer. No, I don't think there's a way that Cody wins at Mania and we get that happy ending where we then look at the Roman title reign positively. I think there's 0% chance that happened. That boat is sailed. It's just full on like, oh man, they should have done it last year, but hey,
Went full
it's
Ocean
over.
Gate on us. It was sailing down. It had a mission, and it crumpled up.
Who in WWE creative is writing this show with a GameCube controller?
No, it's a scuffed Xbox controller.
Yeah, you're right. A scuffed Xbox controller playing SmackDown versus Raw.
It's Triple H just got that weird like Wildcat gaming controller. Those really bad ones.
Dave used to have one of those. He used to have one of those.
I guarantee that was the second player controller.
Yep, that was everyone's second player. I will say, my house, I never had a Wildcat controller. I only had actual controllers. Is that a flex? Is that a rich kid flex? I don't know.
No, I think that's more of just the you weren't a bad person flex. It would have made someone playing a Wildcat controller. You're a sick creature. I'm one of those, so I
wouldn't see that's the thing. I wouldn't buy third party stuff like controllers.
When I was a kid, they didn't market it as third party. They were just like, "Oh, we make controllers for Xbox." I'm like, "Oh, I need a new controller."
I need a new controller. Soapy. I said it was going to take an hour. It about did. Any final thoughts on the Roman, title reign?
I do hope that they can turn the Bloodline story around and make it interesting again. No, and maybe we're just in the minority. Maybe there is that chance that me and you are in the minority of not being giant fans of it.
I would love if we are, because then it fits the podcast name. We're heel talk because we talk about the things no one else. We're heel talk because we have the opinions that no one else has. We're edgy.
But like that's the thing. I hope they can steer it into a direction that's interesting. I hope that they can salvage it. I hope they find a way to make the title reign feel good. Because I'd like for his title reign to end good. Because like I said, I've come around on Roman. Like I used to not be able to stand up, mind you. I'm kind of back to the point that I can't stand him again.
Yeah,
but it's solely for storyline reasons. Like, I want Roman to have a good title reign. I mean, mind you, there are people I am genuinely happy when they fail. I'm a generational hater when it comes to that. But like when it's I want to see Roman have a good title reign. I want to have it that it's next time I see Roman in like 4 months when he steps away and then comes back because Brock Lesnar beats Cody in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And we get Bloodline 2.0 with Tama Tonga and the other half of the Anawahi family. You're
really pushing this Bloodline 2.0, man.
They may as well at this point.
That's
just my whole thing. Is I hope they find a way for it to end good. I hope it doesn't just end on that cathartic, like, thank God it's over moment. It's like, I don't know. It's just, to me, I think it's a real tough ship to sail right now of how you manage to steer it into that feel good moment when it does actually end. That's not just, oh, thank God it's done.
Yeah. I don't think that, like, this is something where, it's like you're watching a TV show and the story's going and you're like, wow, it kind of took a turn for the worst, man. I hope it gets better. And then eventually you get to the point where it's like, yeah, it ain't gonna get any better. It ain't gonna get any better.
I was gonna say, what show is that? Isn't it like Supernatural or whatever that has like 20 seasons of people like, it stops being good after this? Like, apparently it was good enough to get 20.
Dave likes Supernatural. I have never watched Supernatural.
I remember Supernatural, the one that has like 19 seasons. People like,
that's the one with the two brothers, I think. I think they're two brothers.
I just know that it's a show that has a bunch of seasons, and that people were like, it used to be good, now it's not good. I'm like, don't you have 19 seasons? And obviously, people cared about it enough to get it to 19.
Isn't One Piece like that?
No, One Piece is one of those shows that people are like, it starts off rough and it gets better.
Okay, but isn't that like over like hundreds of episodes and it's still going?
Hundreds and understatements.
Thousands?
They're over 1,000 at this point.
Okay. I was gonna say, I knew it was
1,096, I think.
Yeah.
They're still not even close to being done, and it's like, all right, whatever. I'm never picking that up now.
But that is going to do it for Heel Talk. Before I give the little spiel, Soapy, I got some stats for you. So
Right.
I mentioned to you around the 55-minute mark about how many swears you had. So think about this. The first hour of the podcast, you had 50-some swears. The second hour, you had 2.
Hey, let's go.
People who listen to this podcast are going to be like, wow, it was a paradigm shift from hour 1 to hour 2.
To be honest, there's probably 1 or 2 that you didn't catch when I started.
Probably. Like,
I feel like there's a couple more. I think there's at least 5 in the second hour.
There are, you know what? There was one where you went to say the F word, you said F you, but then you didn't finish it. So I'm like, oh, I don't have to bleep it because he didn't officially say the word.
I caught
you
myself.
Caught yourself.
So in stats, I'm 2.5 in the second hour. That one I can actually say I got halfway through.
Yeah, but that is going to do it for Heel Talk, the wrestling podcast of MVP. If you like the show, let us know what you liked about it, what we can improve about it down below. This will be by
swearing, guys. I promise you, I will find a way to word around it. Get prepared for the B word replacement being Bitcoin. This is going to be bi-weekly, so the next time that we will see you is in 2 weeks from now, which will probably be, let's see, we're recording that on the 13th because we record these on Wednesdays, so we're probably going to see you guys on the 17th is the next episode, and then after that, if you want to keep up with the schedule by the time this is out will be updated on mostvaluablepodcasts.com, where you can also catch the audio versions. Audio versions will also, I plan to have them on Spotify, Apple, all of that, so that they might not be out there exactly when this goes live on YouTube, but do know we are working on that, and the audio will be available on the website. Make sure to join the Discord. It is truly the greatest community in the universe. We have a wrestling channel. You can talk wrestling with us down there. In everyone that's in the MVP Discord, you can talk wrestling with down there. We also do watch-alongs for pay-per-views. So like if you want to watch pay-per-views with us, we're always watching pay-per-views in the watch-along channels. If you want to support us, patreon.com. That link is down below. Website's down below. And hit that subscribe button if you guys want to check out more with MVP. Want to thank you guys for everything you do, Soapy. I want to thank you for a banger of an episode 1. Can't wait to have many more 5-star shows with you in the future. But thank you guys for everything you do. And as always, have a good day, everybody. Bye. Yeah, I finally get to do that again.
As always, we'd like to thank the people that make these videos possible, our patrons whose names are displayed on the screen now. If you would like to become a patron, go ahead and click the Patreon icon in the bottom right. And if you'd like to check out another video from MVP Sports, hit the video in the upper left. As always, thanks for watching.